Hi, today we're just going to speak about a academic writing part 1 example. So this is the chart here. And the question is, the chart shows the changes in the total population of England and Wales from 1700 to 2000 and changes in the birth and death rates. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So if we look at the chart, we can see on the left-hand side, it gives you the population in millions. And on the right-hand side, you can see the birth and death rate per 1,000 people. So you can see that the population has, from the 1700s went down to 1800s, and then basically steadily increased at slightly different rates to 50 million, sorry. And then you can also see that the death rate and the birth rate also increased at the beginning of the period, then plateaued, then went down. The death rate stayed the same and the birth rate increased. And that's probably, I know this is a fictitious chart, but that's probably from the 1940s after World War II. The birth rate increased, but we won't mention that in the in the writing. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. So the step 1 is you need to paraphrase the question and state the units. So this is an example of what I've written. Okay, so the line graph depicts the population in millions, left-hand side of the graph, and the birth rate along with the death rate, right-hand side of the graph, measured in persons per 1,000 people for England and Wales for the period 1700 to 2000. Okay, so that's step 1. We've paraphrased the question and we've stated the units, okay? So the next is to summarize the graph. What's happened in the graph? Well, we spoke about it. We can go back again just to quickly have a look. So basically, again, the population's increased. It did have a completely crash between 1750 and 1800. And the growth rates of the birth rate and death rate have changed, but basically at the beginning of the period, they went up, stabilized, then went down, and then the death rate stayed the same, but the birth rate increased. Okay, so that's that. So then we're going to put that into English, okay, to summarize. The population has continued to increase, although at various growth rates during the period in question. Furthermore, both the death rate and the birth rate have followed a similar path during the period, except after the 1940s, where the birth rate increased quite dramatically. Okay, so that would be a summary of the chart. You could add in something along the lines of, how it has that peak and then trough. You could sort of mention that, but I think that's a good summary. Okay. Step 3 is to add all the details and all the numbers. Okay, so first of all, we'll do the population. The population started out at about 3 million and grew rapidly until 1950, reaching a total of about 10 million. Then, in contrast, the population severely diminished. Okay, so you could use other adjectives, adverbs here, dramatically decreased, and so forth and so on, okay, until reaching a nadir, the lowest point in 1800, and then continued to, that should be grow, not growth, continued to grow at slightly different rates until gaining its maximum of 50 million in 2000. Okay, so just, I've written this wrong, so it should be a nadir in 1800 and then continued to grow at slightly different rates until gaining its maximum of 50 million in 2000. I don't think I have a correction pen on here, so unfortunately, but just this bit here, the growth should be grow. Okay, so then continue to grow. Okay. Okay, so let's carry on. So step 3, so this is to do with the birth rate and death rate. Okay, So the birth rate and death rate initially started the period at circa around about 30 and 26,000 per 1,000 people, respectively. As with the population, both rates increased at the same rates until 1750. And then they plateaued, stayed the same, at circa around about 40 for birth rates and 37 for death rates for the period between 1950 to 1800. After 1800, both rates decreased steadily until about 1950 at 20 birth rate and 22 for birth rate. And then the rates diverged. So they went their separate ways after this point. While the death rate stayed static at 20, the birth rate increased, reaching a final rate of about 34 in 2000. Okay, so I think that's a reasonably good answer to this question. And I do apologize about the growth here, this one here. Okay, so thank you very much. I hope that helped you with your IELTS writing part 1. Thank you very much.